Hi everybody. Hello. Okay. We'll get started. One sec. Gotta fix my fixins, so that way it actually looks like we're live. It's not some weird screen that M has crafted just for the purposes of today. Alright, it's gonna be a little scuffed because I couldn't figure out the chat link, but that's okay. That was my bad. How are you all doing today? Hello and welcome to Brown Girl Gamer Code. My name is M. I hope you all are having a fantastic week. It is Saturday. You know what that means. It's stream time. And today we have a very special lineup ready for all of you. Very special. We have cultivated what is now going to be known as Overwatch University. Shared with you all. With me as your host, we're going to do our best. We're going to share with you all the knowledge that we have. We're going to try to pretend like we know what we're talking about, when in reality it's just me going to be combating imposter syndrome live in front of all of you here today. Hey, thank you so much for that follow, Uncle. Welcome. Yeah, this is one, thank you. I'm glad that you all like it. This is one I've just been having sitting in the back of my PC closet for a while, and it's here now. Thought it'd be fun to pull it out and give it a try. But hey Blaze, hey Lunari, how are you? Alright, that looks decent. I can live with that. That's shiny. I'll live with shiny. But how are all of you doing? Hey Em, hey Blaze, hi Paz, hi Bran, Luna, Hexley. How are all of you? Welcome. Well, I won't waste any more of y'all's time. We'll go ahead and get Overwatch all queued up. I'm on my secret account right now, so that way I don't accidentally get invited to a game by friends who are just like, hey, Em's online, let's join a group and play comp. Just like, nah, I can't do that today. I'm hosting a class. Oh, this isn't fashion to M. This is M found this old silver lipstick that she likes a lot, so we're wearing that today. Alright, let's get started. Woo! Learning knowledge. Alright, Overwatch all queued up. There we go, okay. So for those of you who are just now getting here, welcome to Overwatch University. Please let me know if you can hear everything good. Let me know if the sound's working good, because I had to set up a whole new stream, panels, original setup, all that stuff. So if at any point y'all can't hear, y'all can't see, please just spam in chat, and we can't see or hear, and then I will do my best to fix it. We'll take a little intermission and do some live technical stuff as I move my coaster over here. But okay, first things first, hope that everyone is going to go ahead and get comfortable. We'll go ahead and establish some ground rules as we sit here and admire the Hangzhou Sparks skins, which are personally one of my favorite skins. I love that bubblegum pink, baby blue aesthetic that they got going on. So first of all, feel free to ask any questions at all time. If you need to use the highlight command using your channel points, that is not only allowed but encouraged. That way we don't miss anything. We will get to all questions when we can, as well as do our best to answer them to the best of our ability. If for some reason I don't know the answer, I will save the question as then get back to you at a later time with the correct answer once I have an opportunity to do some more research and look into things on your behalf. Also, feel free to, continue to talk to each other. Feel free to, continue to just make comments. Feel free to just be your normal, happy, lovely, gorgeous, perfect selves in chat. No need to put on your professional boots today. That is my job. Y'all are free to continue to just be yourselves and do your best to, interpret what I'm giving out, as well as, you know, process things in a way that makes sense. So if at any point during I'm explaining something, feel free to ask a question about the previous thing that we asked a question, like, went over, and I will circle back and get to that. We will not play Genji Pizza. That will not happen today. I will do my best to explain a little bit about Genji, but other than that, no. But hey, Caliber, how are you? Welcome in. All right, let's go ahead. And can we get a shout out for Pizza, who I think has been lurking and probably was lurking with the explicit intent to just ask that question. I love to call out Pizza, but they know it. Hi. Hey, Jelly. Jelliana, how are you? Welcome. Hope you're having a good one. All right, we'll go ahead and begin our session by just going to go straight into the training grounds, because that is the best way to sort of get an idea about various heroes, as well as for me to explain in front of y'all the various roles, classes, and what kind of to expect as you get into Overwatch. Based off of the poll that we did in the BGGC Discord, a lot of you are familiar with Overwatch, which was great to see. We love people who love a game. And then there were also some of you who are kind of familiar, but also not so much. But we will cover everything as best we can, as well as admire all the skins that we have for our characters. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start with the first class that you can see here in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, which is the tank class. So, the tank class, which is not only the highest health pool, but has some of the more basic kits that characters have. So you have a total of, right now there are 8 tanks, which include D.Va, Orisa, Reinhardt, Roadhog, Sigma, Winston, Wrecking Ball, and Zarya. So a little bit about me first as we continue to get into this. So my name is Em. In addition to being your host today, I currently play in an amateur Overwatch League team. We have competed in the Overwatch Community Cup and the Rose Cup, and we are looking to take part in possibly the Get Good Esports League this upcoming season, and potentially the Outlet Cup, which has returned to the Overwatch amateur scene. It took a recent hiatus, but we are looking forward to competing in that. I also played on my Overwatch collegiate team at college for about 2.5 years, and was one of the first members to join the esports team back before it was even an official team. It was just a club sport. But now that they're an official team, they're actually registered with the university. I was one of the first members, which is pretty cool. And our Overwatch League team has since grown to have multiple groups across all SR ranges, as well as other esports teams such as League of Legends, Rocket League. We have a Fortnite team as well. We might have an Apex team soon, as well as a few others. So that's just a little bit about me. I've been playing since beta. I've been playing since this game first came out. I started playing on PlayStation, so we'll be covering a lot of stuff on how to get adjusted on a console as well, not just PC, so that way y'all can rank up, get those SR points, and get your gold weapons. So back to tank class, you have 2 categories of tanks. You have what are mainly called your off tanks and your main tanks. Most main tanks are categorized by their ability to have a shield and take up a majority of space. Main tanks include Orisa, Reinhardt, and Winston. Yes, that is a small number, but that's a small number for a reason. Having too many main tanks would make the game a lot slower than it needs to be, as having characters that have too high a health pool makes it difficult for people to sort of work around that. So that's why your tank class is relatively small right now. It's expected to grow with the release of Overwatch 2, but for now you still have 8. So we'll go ahead and start with the mainest of main tanks, which is Reinhardt. He is probably one of the core tanks that you'll see in kind of any game. He appears in the widest variety of compositions that you'll see in Overwatch teams, as well as one of the easier tanks for people to sort of grasp right away. So loading in, you can go ahead and see that Reinhardt has one of the larger health pools and armor pools in the game. So he has 500 full HP, including his armor. And he also has a pretty interesting kit, in my opinion. So he has a shield, which we mentioned earlier. Main tanks are mostly categorized by their ability to have a shield. He has a shield, which has a total of 1,600 health, which means that it can absorb that much damage before breaking. And then it regenerates its shield once you put it down if it has taken damage. He also has his Fire Strike ability, which is when you press E. And then his charge, which is shift. Now these can be used in a variety of different ways, as well as combined with a lot of different abilities with other heroes. So a lot of the times you'll see, like, we'll get into Baptiste later, but his ability, which is Amplification Field, you'll see Baptiste put that down and Reinhardt will Fire Strike into that, which ups his damage by a certain amount, making for what can charge his ultimate very quickly for Shatter, as well as do a lot of damage output within a certain range. So there are two things you can kind of do with his shield. One, he's probably one of the few heroes, in fact the only hero, that can actually move with his shield. All the others can either throw it out in front of them or drop it down and then it stays stationary. Reinhardt, which is why you see him so much, actually can move with his shield, which means that your team can actually push in with you, can do damage behind the shield, because if you are shooting behind the shield, it does go outwards and does get hit. Alright, let's go ahead and charge up this ultimate real quick. Alright, so Reinhardt's ultimate ability, which is Shatter, has a very, 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 like, wide breadth. So, looking here, you can see we're at the 10, 5, 0 meters. So, total is about 20 meters here. It goes out by about 15. A little bit, maybe under 15, depending on where you're standing. It can also sometimes go over certain arches. So if you're standing on the payload and you hit your ultimate on the payload and you're standing on the payload, you still get shattered. Sometimes it can bend around corners just because of the way that it is crafted. Like the way that the development worked for Shatter, it used to be blocked by a lot of things. So they worked around that to where it's pretty much blocked by nothing anymore. So by using Shatter, you stun all enemies that are in a direct radius in front of you, as well as a little bit to your angles in a full 180 in your direction. However, because Shatter is an ability that goes out in a certain breadth, you saw a little bit how it went out in sort of a triangular shape, ending out here. If someone is standing directly like towards your side, like an enemy, sometimes they won't get shattered. So you have to be careful when you're aiming that. It requires a lot of communication with your team, as well as a few other things. Alright, back to spawn. Alright, another main tank hero is Orisa. She has about 100 less health than Reinhardt, including her armor. And the reason that she is a lot different and that her compositions are different as well is because her shield is stationary. You put it down, it stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. It also has a lot less health than Reinhardt's, having 1,000 less capability to maintain damage that comes in. But you can also put down different shields, as well as sort of play around with this. So as you can see, once you put down a new shield, the other one goes away. So you can't have like multiple shields like down at the same time. Another part of Orisa's kit is she also does projectile damage, unlike Reinhardt, who has his hammer, who does more close range. Orisa is more of a mid to high range hero. You do more damage if you're mid range. So again, you can see here the 5, 10 meter mark. We'll go to the 10. It's just a decent amount of damage. It's not a lot. It's not too little. It's about the amount you would want for a tank to have. So that way you're not basically a walking DPS who has 400 health, because that would be very unbalanced. She also has what is called her pull ability. The technical term for this is... Hold on. Where's my button? Don't remember. So what this does, and this is your right click button on PC and mouse. It will pull a hero within a certain radius. Now it used to be very, very large, the radius for that. However, recently it has been nerfed a little bit to where it, instead of it used to be about 5 to 6 meters, somewhere in there, now it's about 3 meters. So, again, for example, right in front, we'll try to pull this person over here. That was about 2 meters. It has about 7-second recharge, so it does take a minute. We killed Tracer just because it was fun. And then, if you try to pull someone who's too far away, it doesn't work. So like this person was not pulled. They were at about a 5 meter distance. This person was. They were at about between 2 and 3 meters. So just be careful with where you pull now. Definitely communicate with your team who you're going to try and pull, and know how far they are from the actual pull, because it will not grab everybody anymore. You used to be able to grab whole teams. It was honestly quite a lot. Her other ability is her defense mechanism, which decreases damage that comes in. Now, normally when you take damage, you take a normal amount of damage. Her defensive ability, which is Shift, decreases incoming damage from all sources. So it doesn't matter who you're getting hit by. It could be Junkrat, it could be Widow. Your damage incoming is decreased for all heroes. And then finally, her ultimate ability, which is Supercharger. If you place it down, it increases damage outgoing for your allies within a certain range. So all allies within range of this ability will do higher damage output. Now again, it doesn't last forever, which means you have to definitely work with your team for when you're going to put it down. It is also a vulnerable ability, meaning that when you place it, other enemies can try to destroy it. So when you put it down, try to play directly on top of it or in front of it so that way you can actually deflect it with your body. Don't just put it down and walk away. That's... Or if you are going to put it down and you have to walk away, try to put it down around a corner, around a bend, or directly behind your shield. So that way if someone is trying to destroy it, they have to either be behind you or try to walk through you, which is difficult to do. Alright, and finally, the last technical shield tank is Winston. But he's not really classified as a shield tank, he's classified as a dive tank. Because, as the name implies, he can literally dive to either higher places or places that are much further away than where he's standing. So he does have a shield, but again, it's like Orissa's. It only has about 700. It only has 700 shield ability, which is 100 more than Orissa's, so it's a little bit more viable. And when you put it down, it covers a bit more space, but you cannot move it with you. You can't put it on things that are moving. Same goes for Orissa's shield. So if I were to put it down on this platform right now, it would literally just move with the platform. So bye-bye shield. Your dive ability has a pretty short cooldown. Only about 6 seconds, which isn't that much when you think about it, because between the time you're in the air and between the time you land, it's about 2 seconds. So when you actually land and start doing damage, it's only about a 4-second cooldown in actuality. Total time is 6. It feels like 4, because when you actually land, that's how much time is generally left. You can also do damage to other characters by landing on them with your jump ability. Not a lot, but it does push them away from you, so be careful how you use it, because sometimes you can push heroes further out of your gun's distance. And your gun, which is this Tesla cannon, is more of an area of effect weapon. So anyone who's in direct line of in front of you will receive damage. It also works a little bit to those who are right or left of the target, like your little reticle here. His ultimate ability we won't get into too much because I'm pretty sure you all might have seen it. It is Rampage. And you do not a lot of increased damage. Your Tesla cannon also goes away. And what you do is mostly used as a knockback ability. So you can knock characters away into corners and then just pound them to death. You can also knock people off of ledges. So using that ability just completely depends on a lot of things like the map. What your team is doing, what your team composition is, because if you do not have another dive tank, you have to be careful with how much you use that ability, because if you don't have another dive tank, they can't back you up as much. Do you usually dive right into a fight or out? It's both, Caliber. So, and I'll try to do this in a quick play match in practical application, but say there's a fight going on right here. Or there is not a fight and you want to engage a fight. Winston is meant to engage and disengage very quickly. So what people normally do is they'll jump. Usually they jump up because it's harder to hit a target that's directly in front of you. You'll do damage, your cooldown ends, you get out. And then you just repeat that step. You come back for healing, you heal up, blah, 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 blah. You talk with your team about what you're going to do. You dive in again. You do damage. Maybe you've taken a lot of damage, your health might be low, you get out. That being said, try to go up more than you go out. So for example, you'll actually cover more distance going up and then just walking down than you would trying to go just like propelling yourself forward. There are also ways to jump higher. So say you just press the ability as it is, and I'll try to just go directly up. And we'll use this as an example. So I'll try to hit that orange bar. So if you just go up, you hit the orange bar. That's all. It's pretty high. You cover a decent amount of distance. However, if you do a little bit of jump ahead of time just by hitting your space bar, or is it X on with the controller? Whatever the controller button is for jump. You see how your character's arm goes near their character profile down in the bottom left corner? If you wait until the hand is like coming back down a little bit towards the character icon, and you have to time it pretty, not too accurately, but just a little bit, you get a little bit more like distance with that. So see, I went a little bit higher there. So you can get an extra jump, like a little bit extra distance in there, just depending on how you time that jump. So just a little Winston trick. If you want to get a little bit higher somewhere, if you want to try to get some more distance, do a little half jump in addition to the actual pressing shift. Alright. So we went over pretty much what is called the main tank class classically. There isn't really any classes for tanks anymore, but we'll get into the current meta in a moment. So then you have your off tanks, which are mostly categorized by their ability to have the kits to back up their tanks who are diving in. So your role as an off tank is either to deny angles that the main tank can't reach, or to back up your main tank with your own abilities. So we'll start with D.Va, which D.Va is mostly, she's not super popular right now, but she does have one of the more mobile kits of all the tanks, Winston included. She has a shorter cooldown on her boosters, which make her more able to get places faster. And she can also absorb a little bit more incoming damage if you have more health and a little bit more armor. So D.Va does have regular bullet projectiles. You have unlimited ammo, which is pretty sweet. But you don't do a lot of damage if you're standing further away. So here, looking at the 20-meter mark, say you're trying to aim for this character right here, you don't do a lot of damage. You do more damage the closer you are, just because her spread is very large for this hero. Then you can also use her boosters to like knock people back, knock them around. So it all just depends on how your playstyle fits into whatever hero you decide to pick. Then if you have her kit, which is Defense Matrix, which can absorb incoming projectile damages from a certain range. Now, this only works on projectile or hit scan that is coming in. Anything like a Symmetra beam or a Zarya cannon does not work. Zarya's projectile you can't absorb because that is actually something that is coming towards you that has left the weapon. If it's a beam weapon, it doesn't work on absorption. So don't try to Defense Matrix with Symmetra. Don't do it. Get through this. So you absorb incoming damage for a certain amount of time. It doesn't last very long, so you have to be a little bit more conservative with how you use this. You absorb incoming damage that's in front of you, and then also can be absorbed incoming damage from the side. So if I were to stand here to the side and then do this, you still absorb the damage of all the projectiles coming out from the side. So it's pretty useful ability. It's one of her best abilities for this hero. In addition to that, you also have her rocket launchers, which do a small amount of damage, so it's good for finishing off heroes or just sort of pressuring people away from if someone like counter dives you, or if you have a DPS who is getting a little bit too close to your supports. And then her ultimate is her self-destruct ability. You launch her mech, or you can just leave the mech on the ground and walk away. It used to be in the very beginning of the game, you would get killed by the mech. It's not so much anymore. So you can launch it, press it, try to get a kill. I didn't wait long enough and everyone was inside. But you can launch it up. You can also launch it away. Something that a lot of people do is they will launch it down into the ground and press it. And I'll see if I can build it back up really quickly to demonstrate this. Now, I personally prefer launching it down. Because when you launch it downwards, it makes it less predictable for enemies to know where it's gonna finally land. That being said, you also probably won't be able to know where it's finally gonna land. So in addition to being able to launch it up, directly up, you can arch it. You can throw it down. The reason I like to do it directly down is because this will let it go kind of around corners in a way. So if you launch it directly into the ground with your mech, not directly down, like don't just aim down because you won't go anywhere and your mech won't go anywhere either. You want to do it a little bit of an angle, envision where you want to go, aim towards the ground, shift Q, and see how it just kind of goes in along the curves of the ground. So say you want to launch it around a corner, if you want to try to launch it like down steps, just anywhere that isn't necessarily a linear space where enemies won't really know where it's going, you can do that. I like to use it if, say, you have a Reinhardt who has his shield up, because if you aim it into the ground, he is less likely to be able to turn around and react that quickly. Meaning he'll be able to probably either lose his shield because he won't be able to get to cover in time, or he'll have to block it with his shield and could potentially die because if he goes behind him, through him, on top of him, and he's not blocking it at the precise angle, he can get blown up. Alright, moving on. We will cover everybody. We'll cover everyone slightly. So my personal favorite off tank right now, who is probably the most meta tank in the game, who has never been out of meta really, is Zarya. So Zarya's abilities, and it's hard to demonstrate here necessarily, so we'll go over it as best we can. You have what are called, we call them bubbles. It's just easier to say bubble. Like, you don't say a character's full name when you're trying to get them. Like, you say Ryan, you say like Diva, people say Monkey, they say Sig instead of Sigma. Hey boss, how you doing? Welcome. Let's see, so you have your personal bubble, which absorbs a certain number of incoming damage, and you can see what your charge level is on the screen right there underneath your reticle. And I might be saying that wrong, but I don't care. You can also bubble other people, like your allies, and that bubble will absorb a certain amount of damage for only a couple of seconds or until the bubble bursts. A singular bubble can absorb 40 damage or 40 charge. Then it bursts, and be careful with your bubbles, be smart with them. Don't walk in front of a bastion to suddenly expect your bubble to be able to absorb everything, because it will burst and you will die. In addition to having your bubbles, you also have two ways to use your weapon. You can either launch it like a cannon with your right click, and it goes in an arch. So don't just aim in front, because it will go down a little bit after a certain amount of time, just because there is fall off. Or you can do a beam like so. The more charge you have, the more damage you will do, not just for your beam but also for your bubbles. Can I explain the term meta? Absolutely. So meta refers to characters that are basically what is popular right now. So there are various like sub-metas that you'll see. So like we talked about dive compositions, there's also brawl. Dive, brawl, double shield, you probably might be a little bit familiar with that. Those are the main three that you see right now. There used to be goats before they added the 222 class restrictions to competitive and quick play. Oh god, I remember the days of goats. There used to be pirate ship. There's been a lot of metas over the years. But what it is basically describes the main kind of team compositions that you'll see in the game. So when I talk about dive, usually that means heroes that have high mobility that can get in and out of fights and then return to either the place that is being held. So like if you're doing a 2 capture point, you can return to the starting position or where your team groups up. Or you can jump in, jump out, take space, things like that. Dive generally consisted, usually in the past. Aw, thank you so much for that host. It's so ZOMG Leah. Welcome. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for that host. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good one. And then, hey Magic, how are you? So let me put it to you this way. So meta refers to the best pairings that exist in a game right now that will give you the highest chance of winning and give you an advantage over an enemy team. Right now, it's kind of weird, so we won't get into that just yet, but metas can change all the time depending on the patches that happen, and patches are when heroes get adjusted, damage is increased, decreased for a certain hero, they have less clip capacity than they used to. I'm waiting for that notification. What was that? It just played randomly. Okay. Let's see. Right now it is... Okay, the current meta, technically, is Roadhog and Zarya. Don't ask me why just yet. We'll get into that soon. But other metas in the past have included for Brawl composition, and Brawl refers to where you literally just fight it out with the other team, and whoever has the most, like, we call it a win condition. Whoever has the best win condition in that fight usually will win the fight. And a win condition can either be hero composition, skill capacity for certain heroes, like if you have someone who's just a better DPS, they'll probably be able to outplay other heroes, or if you just have better healers. So win condition just can be a variety of things, and it's what you need to identify for not only your team to maintain your win condition, you also need to identify the enemy team's win condition so that way you can stop theirs. So it's a matter of balance. You have to understand what you have that will give you the advantage to win, and what the enemy team has that you need to deny them. So say the enemy team has a really good Hanzo who can take all angles and just take people's heads off without really paying attention.
Honor, redemption.
You, as the team, have to adjust your own composition to deny that Hanzo his space. Like if that is their win condition. And win conditions are not set in stone. They are never one thing only during the entire game. They change constantly, which is why you are able to change your own composition at various points of the game in your spawn. So say the Hanzo realizes he's getting countered, which is countering is when you change your hero to basically deny the other hero the ability to play. Say the Hanzo then decides to change to a Sombra and just decides to hack the life out of people. So their win condition has changed. So they just constantly hack your tanks when they dive in. They constantly are hacking your Reinhardt so he can never put his shield up. They're constantly hacking your supports so that way they always get like dove in the back and die. Sombra counter can be a lot of things. A good Sombra counter to that would be honestly Brig, even though she's not meta right now. Generally, a hero counter is countered by the people in their same class. So like if you are playing a support and you realize that like an Ashe is getting way too much value and just picking y'all off in the back, you have to communicate with your team. It's like, hey, can we get someone to switch to say another, okay, a counter for a sniper is another sniper. Just putting that out there. Either a sniper or someone who can dive them at a very close range. So say you have a Widowmaker, you have to be careful with your attempted to counter picks. So say you need to counter a Junkrat with a Pharah. Pharah is a very good counter to Junkrat. He cannot hit her no matter how hard he tries. He's too low on the ground, his projectiles don't work like that, and he's very slow. He cannot get out of certain situations. So say you pick Pharah to counter a Junkrat. If you're not good at Pharah, it's going to be hard for you to do. So it's all about like knowing what's meta right now, what you need to practice, what you need to understand, and how you can best help your team. If you're terrible Pharah and people want you to play Pharah, communicate that. Tell them, I'm not good at this. I'm going to either need help or I'm going to need to pick a different hero. Another good a good substitute for Pharah, honestly, is Echo, because she also has that flight capability. She can stay in the air for, honestly, a bit longer than Pharah. And she can be paired really well with either a Mercy or a Zenyatta, because a Zenyatta can give you a healing orb and then just you can keep going. Never play someone you're comfortable with or who you just know you do not play well. It will not end well. Or if you believe that you can do this okay, communicate that you are going to need backup. So say if you want to play Pharah to counter like a Junkrat, a Doomfist, for example, is also very countered by Pharah. Symmetra can also be a decent counter to the Pharah as well, because again, projectile distance works differently. Say, hey, I can do this, but I'm going to need like a Mercy to come with me for Far Mercy, or I'm going to need someone to just be able to heal me at a higher rate. Because if, say, your weakness with Pharah is you take a lot of damage and you can't get out quickly, communicate that, like, I have a hard time getting out. I'm going to need someone to keep an eye on me for heals. I would appreciate that sort of backup. So just communicate where your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and how you, as a person on the team, will be able to contribute to this next fight. The same goes for tanks. If someone wants you to play Reinhardt and you cannot play Reinhardt, you got to communicate that, because Reinhardt is a hero that is easy to understand but also has a very, very high skill cap. What a high skill cap means is there is a lot of room for you to improve, for someone to be able to outplay you, be able to have an understanding of that hero and how their kits and abilities work, to be able to give them a very, very high edge over other people. So say you had people in the same rank, let's say a silver match in competitive play. You have someone who is a Reinhardt main going against someone who is a Sigma main, and the team was like, okay, we want you to play Reinhardt. This person doesn't know what they're doing on Reinhardt. They can't play very well. Of course you're going to get outplayed. Of course it's going to be harder for you to do. So you have to communicate, just like, hi, I don't play Reinhardt at all. What can we change up to fix this? So maybe you decide to play like Winston Zarya. And honestly, Winston can be a decent tank to play up against a Reinhardt. It's not a bad choice. You just have to communicate other things that can fix the issues that are going on with your team. What were we originally talking about? I don't remember. I was talking about Zarya. Okay. So before I switch off to Zarya, let me see if I don't think I'll be able to charge up her ult fast enough, but she does have Graviton, which is her ability. It's just called Grav, and that pulls everyone within a certain radius of that Grav into the Grav, and most heroes can't get out. There are a few heroes that can. Tracer, if you still have Recall, can get out of Grav. Orisa, if you use her Halt ability, which is her where she buffs herself up, can get out of a Grav. Moira can get out of Grab. I think that's only a couple of heroes have the ability to get out of Grab if they get pulled in. Mercy, if you're in Grab, just die. You can't get out. But another thing for Zarya is one way to sort of make yourself a little bit faster. Say you're trying to get back with your team, but you know you don't have ability to jump, you don't have boosters, you can't go flying. A way to sort of give yourself an extra lift is by aiming at the ground, using right click, and then jumping at the same time. So if you walk, you kind of go up. And you can know if it works if you take a little bit of damage down there on the left. And because you have so much shields, it's not that bad. So again, it's just looking down, pressing W, right click jump. Right click jump. And it doesn't work in consecutive order, so don't try and spam it unless you're like really practiced. So right click jump. You can just get farther distance in that amount of time. Yes, communicate, advocate for yourself, and advocate for other people too. So like if you see that like a Mercy or like a Ana is getting bullied, be like, Ana, you're not healing me. Be like, hey, maybe they're by themselves a lot and maybe they need a little bit more defense. And then ask your team how you can do that. So yeah, that's Zarya. Wrecking Ball, I don't play Wrecking Ball, but I'll try and cover this. Wrecking Ball has one of the highest mobilities of all tanks in the game. Even taking into consideration Winston and D.Va. He's just a very high mobility hero. His grapple is ridiculous. The range on his weapons is also very high. So don't feel like as Wrecking Ball you have to always be in the other team. Because stuns are also a huge thing in this game. McCree will stun you. Reinhardt will try and pin you. You will get antied. Your grapple also does have a cooldown of about 5 seconds, I think. I didn't get to see. The spread on your ground pound, which is when you hit the control, when you try to hit the ground. And be careful with how you hit it, because I've seen people do this. They'll grapple, go up in the air, and then accidentally hit shift. So know where your finger is, because I've done this myself when attempting to play Wrecking Ball. He's not who I play at all. You also have a lot of speed, so if you do want to play Wrecking Ball, if you do want to improve, definitely practice with your general control. A good thing about Wrecking Ball is if you do get stuck, like for example, you grapple in, you ground pound, you get stunned, Don't try and fight your way out. Just focus on getting out because you will feed. If a bunch of people are hitting you and you have 600 health and they melt you, you are charging their ultimates. You are giving them value, not yourself. So if that happens, just get back in your mech. Do you have shields? Hit that button and just roll. Get out. Focus on getting back to your team as best you can. Because your grapple will cool down. You have the opportunity to talk about who needs to be dove next. You can get back in. Another thing just that I know from watching people play Wrecking Ball is be careful with your mines. Your mines do not go directly down. It might seem that way, it might feel that way when you're playing him. That is not true. Your mines stick to whatever surface they are released on within a certain amount of time. I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. Alright, say I'm in the air. You want your mines to go down, right? If I hit Q right now and jump off, they are not going to just drop to the floor. They stay up there. Whatever surface they are closest to, they stick to. Now, yeah, a couple made it down here. Like 3. Most are still up there. So just be aware about where your mines are, what walls are around you, what's going on. So that way you don't accidentally mine while still stuck up in a corner, because your mines will not drop down. They will stay up in that corner, and you're going to wonder what happened to your mines. Alright, Sigma is my personal favorite shield tank just because I don't play Reinhardt, just because I don't enjoy playing Reinhardt. But he is one of the more interesting shield tanks in that you don't put his shield down and it stays there. You control the length at which his shield goes. So let's just aim out into the abyss, okay?
Observe the barrier.
However long you hold down right click, it's however far your shield goes. However, you can recall it just by really quickly pressing that button again. So say you want it to be in between, not in front of yourself directly, but say in front of your heroes that are in front of you. You can just put it out, and there you go. This is good for not only just setting up so that we can like maintain a corner or like keep a space. You can also use this to like interrupt enemy ultimates. So say a soldier is ulting up there, and your shield is here. Recall that shield, put it up in that corner, because it'll do one of two things. Either the soldier will try and move to get around that shield, or he will jump down, which makes the soldier more easily accessible to you to kill, as well as force him off of his preferred space. So say he has to go either to the left or to the right. If he goes to the right, your team can move this way behind you, or take shelter. It gives them more time to do things. So think about using your shield in ways that don't necessarily are convenient. What's my opinion on the Sigma shield's health? My opinion on that, it is fine right now. It's not too big of a difference. It is missing 200. It used to be 900. It since has been nerfed. The only thing I will comment on is to be a bit more conservative with your shield usage. Sigma has the ability to actually absorb a lot more damage than you think. Because of one, his Secretion, which is a stun ability. So say someone's trying to do damage in front of you. You can stun them, have a second for let someone heal you up, take less damage. You also have your Absorption, which is Shift, which absorbs incoming damage directly in front of you. Now, similar to D.Va's defense matrix, it only works on projectiles. If you're trying to absorb a beam, it will not work. You can also absorb things like grabs, most ultimates that are... Don't try and absorb a tire, it won't happen. Don't absorb a rip tire, anybody, please. Another thing for Sigma is his shield, because it only has 700 health. Be aware of that shield's health, because if it cracks, it takes a longer time to regenerate than if you just were to pull it down at like 50 health. Try your best to not let your shield crack. If it breaks, if it cracks, if it's destroyed, it takes a longer time to regenerate than if you were to just put it down. Or pull it back up. So, hold on, let me see if I can demonstrate this. We'll just put it up right here. Alright, I'm not absorbing all that much damage, hold on. Alright, there we go. I'll let that just go down. So see how it's already starting to crack? So you can either literally watch its health. Like say you have to move and you can't actually see it. It's displayed there on the screen. Okay, we're about like 70 right now, 60, 50. I'm gonna let it crack.
My barrier
Okay.
is destroyed.
It takes longer time to put it back up because you can't put it back up for about 4 seconds after that. Orissa's shield cannot be recalled, but you can put down a new shield the second that cooldown is over. So even if your first shield is still up, you can put down a new shield. The same goes for Reinhardt. If your shield breaks, you still can't put it up for a certain amount of cooldown. Even if it's like cracked to the infinitesimal amount. Thank you so much, Anonymous Cheer, for those 100 bits. We appreciate your support here at BGGC. Thank you so much. Yes, that new shield for Orisa will have full health. All Orisa's new shields have full health. It does only have 600, so be careful about like where you put it and how soon you put it down. My advice is, even if you have that cooldown like finished, wait until your first shield breaks and then put down a new one, because the second you put down a new shield, that cooldown does reset. Sigma, no. You have to wait for his shield to completely restore to its full health before it will have full health again. The same goes for Reinhardt. The people who have full shield resets for new shields are Winston and Orisa. I'm trying to... Okay, one thing about his projectiles, they are infinite. They are also weird.
Entity turn.
Meaning that you can hit angles and it will bounce off of that angle at a certain degree. So you gotta know geometry a little bit. Not too much, but just enough. So like if you hit this angle, it will not bounce off and hit Tracer. It will go behind her. Hit a little bit further, it will sort of hit Tracer. You have to kind of understand the geometry of where heroes are. And it doesn't have to be exact. Like they'll just bounce off until they hit things twice. So see how the hero will wait until it goes back. But see in this room up here, you can hit that angle and it will bounce into that room. At various degrees. So you can do it up, down, to the side. Once that hero goes in, because of the spread on his damage, it will still hit that hero. And you can see by the way that it appears on the screen, and that character is dead. Not too much geometry, just enough. Like, just understand how, like, bouncing works. Like, if you were to throw a ball across your room right now and hit the wall with enough force, what direction do you think that will go in? And see how it doesn't have to be perfect because it does have a certain amount of stretch. Maybe if you don't hit an exact, that's fine. The damage is still relatively high. You can still, and you're not a damage dealer anyway. Your job as a tank is to take and deny space for the other team. Take space from them and keep space from them. That's why you have so much health and so much shields. Your ultimate ability, while it's fun to use by itself, it really doesn't do as much damage as you think. Try and pair this with other characters, or let them know when you're about to do it so they can back you up. Because in addition for when you lift people out of the air with your ability, they are also stunned for a certain amount of time when they hit the ground. Meaning that they are vulnerable. They cannot fight back, they cannot run away. Well, they can fight back, but they can't run, they can't move. Their abilities such as, like, Moira's Fade doesn't work if she hits the ground. It will still work for Fade if she's up in the air, but if she hits the ground, she can't fade out. Because you are stunned for just a couple of seconds. Alright, last tank is Roadhog, who is currently probably the more meta tank than I would say even Reinhardt. And we'll get into why Zarya and Reinhardt are meta right now. Please don't ask me why. I don't know. Okay. I know what metas are. I don't know why they happen. I don't know that much. I'm not a game developer. But I can't explain to the best of my ability why I think they are happening. Okay, so Roadhog is a ridiculously high damage output tank. He's basically a walking DPS with 600 health. In addition to doing that much damage to a person if you hit them from 10 meters, you can do the same amount with your left click close up. And that's at 5. So know the difference. If you're standing up close and you try to use your right click, it does not work the same. You also have your hook ability, which grapples someone from across the way, pulls them towards you. There are 2 ways to finish off heroes this way. Please do not rely on your left click. And only use left click for hooks. Never right click. Because of the spread. So if I hit the wall here, you'll notice this. At 10 meters, it's a big grouping of just molten, gross, hot scrap metal. Far away, that's not that much. If I were to do this close up again, It's too much all in one place. It doesn't really do that much damage that's needed for the projectile to work. It's all about force. Close up, it's all in that one space. You can also absorb a lot of damage as Roadhog because you have the heal ability. We haven't taken any damage yet, but if you hit E, you restore your own health, and you can just back up. So say you're taking a lot of damage and you want to try and get out, do that. If you are fighting another Roadhog, never hook first. If you hook first, you lose. What you want to do if you get hooked by another Roadhog is just keep fighting it out, use your healing ability, try to do damage to them, try to hit their head if you can, or just above the shoulders, between their shoulders. Aim around here for a Roadhog. Here is a lot of damage. Aiming for the head is hard. Even if you're a DPS character, never try to aim directly for the head as practice. You want to aim for the clavicle right here between the shoulders and the neck. Because you're more likely to hit this spot than you try to hit this spot. Why do you lose if you hook first? That is a great question. So if you hook first, what is most likely to happen is they will announce that they have been hooked. So like, watch. Imagine this person can talk to their team. I'm not going to kill them. I'm just going to hook them. I've been hooked. They have a certain amount of time to, you can either bubble them as Zarya, which is why Zarya is big right now. You can either stun the Roadhog, you can anti the Roadhog and give healing to your character. And you can also just react faster. So it's like, if you get hooked, you scream, I've been hooked. Your team will look at you and try to help you. Someone will. Someone will, most of the time. And then they have enough time to react. If you've been hooked, say you've been hooked, you've lost like 300 health, you just heal and kind of back up a little bit. That Roadhog now has a choice. They can either try to finish the job or get out. Here's what happened though. Because your team has reacted, they are now looking at that Roadhog. If you hook them, and they've already used all their abilities trying to get out, they're basically a sitting duck. But at the same time, it's all about communication. You have to communicate that you've been hooked, your team will react most of the time. Like about 80% of the time, your team will react to callouts. Especially if you're like a support or another tank. DPS, if you call out something, nah. We'll get into why your callouts are not as important as other characters. And then they're basically sitting duck because they've used up all their abilities trying to finish you off now or to get out. So if you see them healing and you hook them, that will cancel out their heals. So they will no longer be healing themselves. They will now be stuck. They cannot hook you in between a hook. So that's why you want to try to hook second, or hook if you know you can finish the job. Only hook if you know you can finish the job. Don't just hook for fun. Hook if you believe with like 99% certainty that you can finish off this hero. Or if you're trying to save someone else. Save someone else, finish the job. Alright, that was fun. Alright, now on to DPS. So you have two kinds of DPS. Same for tank. But instead of being like an off DPS and a main DPS, you have what are called projectile DPS and hit scan DPS. Hit scan are basically anyone that has the classic weapon with bullets. So that includes Ashe, Hanzo, McCree, Reaper, Soldier, Sombra, Tracer, and Widow. Now you have your subclasses like snipers are Ashe, Hanzo, and Widow. You have your like dive heroes, which are like Tracer, Echo. Doom is Doomfist. That's all I'll say. And then, yeah, and I'll get into Anti later once we get to the support class. That's Ana. Ana is meta right now, just so y'all know. She's always sort of been meta. I've never actually seen when Ana was not played a lot, except for maybe Brawl, maybe, but it's been a while. Alright, so we'll start with just the main. So in addition to hit scan, which is like the classic weapon with bullets, you have your projectile DPS, which include Echo, Genji, Junkrat, Mei, Pharah, Symmetra, and Torb. We don't really know how to classify Doomfist. He's sort of a projectile hero, but he's also not. He just is. Yes, welcome Kay. Good to have you here. Bastion's also sort of a hit scan, but because of the fact that he's stationary, we don't really classify him as that because of his turret form, and we'll get into that in a sec. But Ashe is meta right now. I'll show you why. She used to have a 14 hit clip. Ashe is a very high damage output hero, depending on if you land a headshot or not.